Little did Bernard Madoff know, this day in 2008 would end a decades-long facade and plunge thousands into a financial and moral abyss. It began like many Wall Street success stories. Born in 1938, Madoff built a reputation as a brilliant market maker and an active figure in the NASDAQ community. By the 1990s, he presided over Bernard L. Madoff Investment Securities, a boutique firm that handled wealth for pension funds, charities, celebrities, and small investors who trusted his reputation as much as his returns. Behind the polished offices and industry accolades, however, lay an intricate lie. Madoff did not execute the trading he promised. Instead, he ran a classic Ponzi scheme. New investor money paid the steady, improbably consistent returns shown on fabricated account statements. Trade blotters were forged, custodial records were invented, and a tiny, ineffective auditing operation rubber-stamped reports that never matched reality. The conspiracy that allowed it to flourish was not just one man's deception. It was a patchwork of willful blindness and failed oversight. Feeder funds and wealth managers steered billions his way in exchange for fees and access. Banks that handled his cash flows, most notably JP Chase, processed transfers and maintained accounts, even as patterns screamed irregularity. The Securities and Exchange Commission, repeatedly warned by a private analyst named Harry Markopolos as early as 2000, and again with detailed memos later in the decade, ran multiple examinations, yet left the core fraud undiscovered or unprosecuted. The global financial crisis of 2008 provided the pressure that exposed the rot. As markets fell and liquidity dried up, clients sought to redeem more than the operation could possibly return. On December 10, 2008, Madoff confessed to his sons that the asset management business was a sham. They alerted federal authorities. On December 11th, he was arrested. The courtroom disclosures that followed read like an anatomy of betrayal. Frank DePascali, a lieutenant in Madoff's operation, later admitted to creating fake trades and client records. The small auditing firm of record begged off responsibility, and names that had sat comfortably on charitable boards and in private clubs were revealed as victims and, in some cases, unwitting conduits of hundreds of millions of dollars. The paper losses reported by account statements exceeded $60 billion. The actual cash shortfall was roughly in high tens of billions. Legal reckoning came in many forms. On March 12, 2009, Madoff pleaded guilty to 11 felonies. On June 29th of that year, he was sentenced to 150 years in prison. Trustee Irving Picard launched an aggressive recovery campaign, suing feeder funds, investors who profited, and financial institutions. Some recoveries were historic. The estate of investor Jeffrey Picower agreed to return more than $7 billion, and banks including JP eventually reached multi-billion-dollar settlements for failing to question clear red flags. Over the next decade, Picard recovered more than $10 billion for distribution to victims. The human toll was profound. Small savers lost life savings, endowments and Jewish charities that trusted family friends were devastated, investors and advisors took their own lives. The scandal forced questions about how institutions and regulators could have missed such glaring inconsistencies for so long. In the aftermath, reforms crept in. Regulators tightened customer protections and compliance scrutiny, banks adopted more robust anti-money laundering practices. But the Madoff affair remains a cautionary tale about reputation's power to obscure fraud and about systems built to trust rather than to verify. The conspiracy at the heart of this story was not a neatly organized cabal, but a dangerous ecosystem, a gifted deceiver, enablers motivated by fees or naivete, auditors and regulators who failed to pierce the illusion, and investors who equated prestige with safety. When the facade collapsed in that cold December of 2008, the aftermath reshaped lives, institutions, and how the financial world thinks about faith, proof, and accountability.